sustainability is really where it is. It's kind of a buzzword, but it's been in place, and I want to say something to that in just a minute. It's been in place for quite some time. 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 So with all that said, I want to talk a little bit about what it is. A lot of times when we hear sustainability, we think about environmental stewardship, but it goes far, far beyond that. Sustainability is really that nexus between environmental stewardship, economic stewardship, and social or community stewardship. So all three of those come together.
The City of Cleveland has passed a law tying triple bottom line practices to local business opportunities. Sustainable companies taking part in the Green Plus program can now gain a 4% bid discount when pursuing contracts with the city. Green Plus is a nonprofit third-party certification designed by Duke, the University of North Carolina, and Chambers of Commerce.
And we've really been doing sustainability for a very long time. We just didn't call it that. I mean, when I was growing up, we called it, well, conservatism. Let's be conservative with our money. Let's be conservative with our resources. Affordability, convenience. Let's try to place our schools in convenient places. Have grocery stores that are walkable for us. And we've really been doing sustainability for a very long time. We just didn't call it that. I mean, when I was growing up, we called it, well, conservatism. Let's be conservative with our money. Let's be conservative with our resources. Affordability, convenience. Let's try to place our schools in convenient places. Have grocery stores that are walkable for us. So we've really been practicing it, And now we're coming together in a more aggressive way because of resource conservation issues and in a sustainability movement.
I'm very pleased that the Bureau of both CSD 17 and CSD 18 are represented here. Their joint participation goes beyond the mere symbolic significance. It sends a strong signal to member states and major group stakeholders that the Commission is taking real steps to ensure that its policy decisions are being implemented.
The original definition in 1987 really speaks strongly, because what it says is having enough resources to maintain our own lifestyle now without compromising those for future generations. And that's really where we want to go with this. We want to use what we have. We want to maintain a lifestyle that's a good lifestyle for us, but we don't want to compromise the lifestyle of our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. We don't want to deplete the water. We don't want to deplete our oil resources. We don't want to deplete our communities. We want to have good community infrastructure, so we're beginning to think very aggressively about that now. And what it really boils down to is we all know we need to cultivate a lifestyle where we conserve resources.
With all the evidence that we've amassed in our preparations for the Stockholm Conference, including the views of many of the world's leading scientists, I am convinced that the prophets of doom have got to be taken seriously. In other words, doomsday is a possibility. I'm equally convinced that doomsday is not inevitable.
Why do you think they have to be taken seriously?
Well, they have to be taken seriously because it has become apparent that today man's own activities have reached the scale where they are the principal determinants of his own future.
The film Zero Population Growth predicts a society in the next century where there is overpopulation, where there is extreme pollution, and where people can no longer be allowed to have babies. Now, is this the shape of things to come?
Well, I haven't seen the film, but I can say that if we continue on our present trends, on our present course, it's very likely that in many parts of the world this will be the case. In fact, we have begun to see it in many areas. Now, licenses to have babies, something that I got in trouble for some years ago for suggesting, even in Canada, that this might be necessary at some point, or at least some restriction on the right to have a child. I'm not proposing this. I was simply predicting this as one of the possible courses that society would have to seriously consider should we get ourselves into this kind of situation. It took mankind something like 50 millennia to achieve its first billion of population on this earth. Now it takes us some 20 years to add 1 billion people. Now, this has got to be regarded as a serious problem.
What's the U.S. policy? Does the U.S. have a policy on population control? And this is where our story gets really, really strange, because this may be the most notorious document in the history of the United States. And I'll show you why. It's the National Security Study Memorandum 200, Kissinger report, who was the director of the NSC and Secretary of State, submitted this document to Nixon in '74. They identified target nations they were going to use. They wanted to list multinational organizations. Legalize abortion was key. Financial incentives, propaganda, and even coercion were to be used. The methods of NSSM, they wanted it to be inexpensive and safe. They wanted it to be perceived as safe, for sure. Non-physician, which means they wanted to implement this to huge populations and not enough doctors to do it. And vaccines are perfect for that. You don't have to be a physician in these countries to vaccinate. But this thing just jumped off the page. Injectable contraceptives for women which are effective for 3 months or more. Didn't exist back then. It sounds like a vaccine, potentially.
So I would like to give you what I believe is the real agenda. And so much of what Dr. Ayoub told you in the previous talk carries over into this one. There are people who have a different world view. NSSM 200. And what they say is we've got to restrict population throughout the rest of the world. First of all, in the developed countries, and then, of course, in the underdeveloped countries. And that's why we give all of these, hundreds of millions of dollars every year to the United Nations Family Planning Association, why we finance abortion in China, why we finance abortion throughout the rest of the world, why we put those contraceptive vaccines out. And I've talked to people from Kenya and from the Philippines, both where they've, without knowledge of women, they've given them contraceptive vaccines so they can't conceive and taken away the most important thing a woman can have, the ability to have children. But you see, these evil and wicked people have no human compassion. They just have a goal, and that is sustainable development.
It's been in place for quite some